Chase. On enforcement of race taxes on working families.
We can deal with our budget.
Community America should be we alliance.
Much of the budget is bloated, including the $5 billion spent running the palatial embassy in Baghdad just for 1 year. But a bloated budget is just the beginning of the State Department's spending problem. According to an Inspector General's report, a staggering $6 billion in State Department funds is missing and/or cannot be accounted for. For the embassy in Iraq alone, a staggering $2 billion is missing. Keep in mind that the cost to build the palatial embassy, that includes an Olympic-sized swimming pool, football field, and basketball court, was a staggering $1 billion. Obama, of course, is not holding Hillary Clinton responsible for the missing $6 billion, despite the fact that most of it was lost under her watch as Secretary of State. Was Hillary Clinton, while she was covering up the fact that al-Qaeda attacked her embassy in Benghazi, running a media campaign to obfuscate her connection to the missing money? A media campaign that was modeled on her distraction campaign when her husband, Slick Willie, was caught putting cigars in the Help? Or worse, did Hillary Clinton in fact embezzle some of this money herself? Hillary Clinton has a long history of bilking American taxpayers out of millions of dollars. While Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas, he flooded her Rose law firm with millions of dollars in bogus fees for drawing up the legal papers dispersing Arkansas Finance Development Agency funds. Hillary Clinton, now known as the Benghazi Butcher for giving the stand-down order in Benghazi, according to the OPSEC report, breach of duty, Hillary Clinton, and catastrophic failure in Benghazi, is now also embroiled in a massive political corruption investigation involving the financing of her 2008 presidential bid. According to court documents, businessman and Clinton megadonor Jeffrey Thompson funneled $500,000 into Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, all off the books. The revelation came to light when Jeffrey Thompson was indicted for running a shadow campaign for Clinton crony D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray. Hillary Clinton claims she knew nothing about the shadow campaign, despite the fact that it was arranged by longtime Clinton crony and DNC head Minion Moore. Will Attorney General Eric Holder investigate Hillary Clinton's shadow campaign and the possible shadow campaign of Barack Hussein Obama? Hardly. Eric Holder subscribes to the Hillary Clinton credo of, "What difference does it make?"
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
On the morning of April 19, 1995, a decorated Gulf War combat vet blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City using a truck bomb that he didn't build and a Ryder truck that he didn't rent with the help of a passenger who didn't exist. Having just gotten away with the largest act of terrorism on U.S. soil to date, the Fort Bragg-trained Special Forces Sheep Drip Dropout blended in with the crowd by making his getaway in a car without a license plate and was immediately pulled over. The ATF was the supposed target of the attack, but luckily all of their agents were out of the office that morning. Later that day, the president boldly declared,
"We will find the people who did this.
And
when we do, justice will be swift, certain, and severe."
Except for
John Doe number 2.
John Doe number 2.
John Doe number 2.
who, according to the FBI, never existed. In McVeigh's unprecedented 3.5-week trial, the prosecution didn't show the CCTV footage of him and John Doe number 2 parking the Ryder truck. Didn't explain why 24 separate witnesses mass hallucinated the existence of John Doe number 2. Didn't explain why the government was testing truck bombs and the Army was storing Ryder trucks at Camp Gruber right before the bombing. And didn't talk to the FBI informants who blew the whistle on the plot. But they did collaborate with the CIA, and they did convict McVeigh as the lone wolf bomber and Terry Nichols as his bomb-constructing accomplice. Still, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists, including 300 bombing victims, insist on talking about facts and evidence and refuse to simply believe what they've been told a million times by people in tailored suits with well-coiffed hair. They quote the U.S. Army Brigadier General and the FBI crime lab whistleblower and the inventor of the neutron bomb who point out the physical impossibility that the Ryder truck bomb did the damage to the building, but that doesn't matter because if there were other bombs in the building that day, we would have heard about them.
The second explosive was found and defused.
I think he said another bomb.
The Justice Department is reporting that a second explosive device has been found.
They then found a third device, which was also larger than the first.
And I see another bomb truck going, so apparently they're going to try to get out that third bomb.
The FBI claims to have lost the footage showing McVeigh and John Doe number 2 parking the truck in front of the Murrah building that morning, but that's understandable because the Bureau has a lot of important evidence to store. Terry Nichols insists the FBI was involved in the plot, but thankfully a judge has saved us the trouble of listening to him by preventing lawyers from deposing him. There was a bomb squad truck parked across the street 2 hours before the blast, but that just shows the authorities were prepared for anything. And
other documents obtained by 2020 show that someone called the Executive Secretariat's office at the Justice Department in Washington and said the Murrah building had been bombed. But this was 24 minutes before the blast.
But that just shows the public was unusually vigilant that morning. Also,
apparently, before the bombing, Governor Frank Keating's brother, Mark, had been working on a novel about a terrorist bombing in Oklahoma City. Stranger still, one of the characters in the novel was named Thomas McVeigh.
But that's probably just a coincidence. McVeigh wrote a letter to his sister where he admitted to being a secret Special Forces operative, and he complained to friends of the pain in his ass from an Army-implanted microchip, but that's crazy because if he didn't actually leave the Army in 1991, there would be proof of that. This man never existed, and if you say otherwise, you're a crazy government-hating nutjob who deserves to be locked in a cage for the rest of your life. Likewise, him, her, them, her, and him. And him and him. McVeigh was not executed on May 16, 2001 as scheduled because
the FBI had failed to turn over thousands of pages of evidence to McVeigh's defense attorneys.
But the execution went ahead on June 11th. In a highly unusual and secret agreement, no autopsy was performed. One witness said he was still breathing, and the prison officials admitted his hearse was a decoy. Then, the case was officially closed. This is the story of OKC as told to you by the same truth-tellers behind
perhaps a profoundly lonely man who craved attention but found consolation in doing good.
And
the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG.
And
we're with the rebels. And he said, "Oh, you're with the rebels?" And they started beating him. "Oh, you're with the rebels? Don't you support Bashar?"
And if you question any part of this story, you are a paranoid, wingnut, birther, truther, tenther, prepper, conspiracy loon who should feel guilty for having been born. If you love baseball, fluffy kittens, hot dogs, Barbie, Star Wars, and freedom, you will never ever bring up any of these points ever again.
This report I received today is a monumental document in more ways than one. But it is a very, very important piece of America's history, and it will shape America's future in ways that will make us a more honorable, more successful, and more ethical country. What this committee learned, I would like to review today with a little more detail than Dr. Faden said, because I think it must be engraved on our national memory. Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment, and that was wrong. So today, on behalf of another generation of American leaders and another generation of American citizens, the United States of America offers a sincere apology to those of our citizens who were subjected to these experiments, to their families, and to their communities. When the government does wrong, we have a moral responsibility to admit it. The duty we owe to one another to tell the truth and to protect our fellow citizens from excesses like these is one we can never walk away from.